So that's not surprising that we peaked like that. But if you look at that line extended and you erase that big bump, look where we are now. We're more or less where we would have been, I think, right? In terms of this X-Men #1 in terms of fair market value. So in the trailing 12 months, we have an average of $5,079. We have a low of $4,400, a high of $5,450, and Go Collect currently calculates the fair market value with their algorithm at $5,250. So that's what I used. Keep in mind, if you have a 2.5, you are right at the bottom quartile. So this is basically the 25th percentile. And yeah, so 3/4 of the books out there are higher grade than your copy. That said, I mean, this presents pretty well. It's not a mess.
It could be cleaned, but
funny enough, it was cleaned.
Yeah, well,
that's why it's conserved. So this one was graded January of last year. It was cover cleaned, and there you see obviously the key, and then the grader's notes include tape to the centerfold, moderate stain full top of whole book, spine split top of spine, creasing to cover, light tears to cover, wear to cover. The spine split is what really did this one in, but then it's conserved. I have a theory about this.
Okay, lay it on me. I'll give you mine afterwards. Go ahead.
Let's look at the big pictures first. So here's the top half of the front cover. One of the things you'll notice is the cover is too small, left to right.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah,
how much of a margin?
Shrunk.
Yeah, I think what is at first I was wondering if it was the wear, the lightening of the inks along the spine, but then I started looking. I think it's the shrunken cover, especially that top corner. You can see definitely where they've reattached the cover, and with it being shrunk, it just isn't fitting quite right now. Because you should see more of that cover wear being matched with the interior wear, but it's not.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the cover is shrunken away from it.
Well, what it is for those at home, when you get these books wet, the grain runs vertically on them, so they'll shrink this way and they expand this way. And unless you correct it or have a way to dry it without it shrinking and contracting, this is what happens.
That's funny.
I have to
ask me how I know.
Angel using a bazooka.
Couple comments about how the inkers could have done better over Kirby's pencils. I mean, these inks are pretty lame palette.
You only had like 2 inkers in the whole bullpen back then.
Conserved, and there's tape on centerfold. I am very confident the person who submitted this was trying to avoid a conserved
I'm certain
label.
Of that as well.
Yeah, this was an accidental conserved.
Yeah, they were hoping they could sneak something past.
I think this is almost supposed to be like they're in the danger room. These are like danger room type implements that the Beast and Warren are using, maybe? I don't know, but that's a good question, Jason.
You can see where the ink is lifted on the spine. That's also a definite sign of the over cleaning of the cover.
Well, and then that's what I said a minute ago, Larry, is I was curious if that wear ink loss that you're talking about is due to cleaning or due to wear. But like I said, I think the most obvious sign of it being cleaned is the shrunken cover.
Let's take a look at the back.
The back, you can see it very much.
So there's actually a little bit of spine roll as well. And as you pointed out, Larry, it's actually not that clean, despite having
Not
a
that
cover
clean.
cleaned notation.
Maybe they just
So-
clean. I can't imagine they just would clean the front of the cover, not the back, unless there's just really embedded stains. But it doesn't look like it. Looks like surface dirt.
Well, I'll tell you what I think.
Okay.
I think somebody did a bad job with a hop on this book.
It looks like it was hot. Yeah.
And I'm not, as you know, I'm not against the hop method in general. I mean,
If you know what you're doing, hop works. If
Yeah,
you
our buddy-
if you don't, this is what happens.
friend of the channel, Jim Walgert, we've had him on.
Mhm.
He innovated the hop method. He had a team around him, including Joe Chopsewski and Chris and Captain Mike, Chris Trump, that is, who we had last week, and others. And, I think it's a valuable tool to have in your toolbox. That said, even in their book, they point out that you can wreck books with it, or you can get conserved or restored grades if you're not careful. This to me looks like it was probably double hopped, and that probably led to the spine split, and probably led to the cover shrinkage, and probably led to the conserved grade. The person doing this most likely didn't disassemble the book, therefore never removed the tape from the centerfold.
And that's why when it got
And-
wet, it blew out that staple.
Yeah, that's my guess. This what
I think that's a fair guess, actually.
The world's greatest conservation detective.
Who knows? What do we have for guesses on this book? For reminder, fair market on the Universal, $52.50. So what do you guys think?
I'm going to come in at 1,800.
It presents really nicely. I think 1,800 is a good guess. Anyone else want to venture a guess? The professor's at 1,500.
1,500.
Yeah, I was around 16.
16, honey. Salesboy comes right in at 3,000. He saw the title of the show.
Yeah,
Jason's at 1,501. He knows how to play the game.
that was clickbait.
Ben Stewart at 2,500. Commandant VHS, welcome to the show. Guesses at 1,200. My buddy Hugo Danner's at 1,850. The professor's now going to revise his guess to 1,502. Just kidding. Dagny, haven't seen you in a while. Glad to have you here. Just under 2,000. Any other guesses? Jim's in at 1,950.
$1.
Wow. Rough crowd, Ben. You really think he does not have a lot of faith. He does think I'm making clickbait titles. All right. You guys ready? This was eBay, fixed price. It ended this week. Somebody clicked the buy it now. For
That's
boom,
surprising.
35
Surprising.
honey.
Somebody must just got their income tax check in.
I think they probably overpaid on that one.
They
honestly.
overpaid.
I mean,
Yeah, for 3,500, I still think you can find a decent, Universal.
Can you?
No, I think. Well,
A one?
we'll see where
You know
our
what a one
economy
is going to look like?
We'll see where our economy is headed.
I mean, this presents really well.
It does. It's just, I mean, I guess as us as conservators, we see the flaws in what they did, and I guess that bugs me a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, like I wouldn't want to. I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad.
Sales boy. I'm not sure. I think Dagny, technically you were after I revealed it. I think there's a couple comments before your number there. Yeah. Well, guess what? When we launched the show, we were showing a fair number of books that were selling at 2/3 the universal price.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was saying that's my rule of thumb, half to 2/3. And then we
But
showed a whole bunch of books that were
way
like
under.
hideously low, like a quarter
Yeah.
of Universal. And then we
Yeah.
showed some 30 and 40% and half of Universal. But the last 2 weeks, we've showed books that have been right in this range of 2/3 Universal. So maybe, we had some, I mean, look, all these markets are thinly traded because there's just not that many conserved books around. And I do tend to pick ones from the golden age, which means they're even harder to estimate fair market value on. This one here does trade enough that I think the fair market value is fairly well established. I think, the last 2 Silver Age books that I've featured have been right at this 2/3 point. So maybe that's reasonable. Maybe it's not overpaying. Thoughts?
Jason's tugging my chain. Jason's being mean to me.
Oh, yeah. Jason, good job. Look at my face. Good job, Jason. No, I think I'm not to pick on whoever did this work.
No, and that's why I said
I
I
don't
don't
think-
say anything bad. I
don't think the
just
person
felt
doing
like
this
there was
work.
some more care could have been taken. Anyway,
Yeah, I don't think the person doing this work was intending to get a conserved grade. I don't think the person doing this work read this book right here, had the benefit of sort of being able to have a community around to give them some feedback on this. But
Yeah, I think this was a attempt to trying to make something really, present much better, and it just kind of got
Yeah,
overdone.
well, and
Oh,
if you-
it got overcooked, is what it did. They cooked the cover.
I think so. And
Yeah.
like I said, my guess is they probably split the spine or accelerated or made the spine split worse. This
I
is
would
one
think
that
so.
should
That probably happened with the humidification of the hop, if that was it.
Yeah, I think
we know Silver Age books, man. You can't do some of these things, dude.
Yeah.
Well, the hop method works, like I said, for people that are skilled
yeah.
enough to practice it, but you can ruin it, and this is what happens. This is
Yeah.
how
And-
things
hey,
the result is.
And I've split spines, like leaving stuff in the humidity chamber too long.
Guilty.
Um,
We all have.
forget about it, or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Speaking of hop, we do discuss it in our book. We talk about the modifications we like to do. We do recommend you buy the stain removal and whitening book. You learn everything from that. And it's a great jumping off point. It's the most concise summary. And but we do recommend some modifications of that method. And there's some books where we recommend other things.
Yeah.
And that is our segue.
Getting into the hobby, man. The second edition is really great of Captain Mike's book, and you should go out and get, pick it up. There's a lot of new material. It's bigger. I like it because it's bigger, because I'm old and I can see things better. But yeah, if you're just starting out and you want, that's how I know Paul and I have talked and stuff. That's how we started out was with, Captain Mike's books, and they're an excellent resource.
Oh yeah.
right,
Just
Jack,
had a
don't
couple
lay 'em
comments. We'll move to our next segment. Obviously, water is safer than H2O2 as long as it's not distilled water. Then it might even be break even. Not gonna lie.
And we're not saying the defects are due to hydrogen peroxide. It's due to the over moisturing.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if that would have been. Who knows? That may not even been hopped. I'm just speculating.
But it definitely was an over.
No, it wasn't over whitened. That wouldn't be.
No,
the
it
issue
wasn't
there.
over whitened. But yeah.
As Larry said, paper has a grain, right? And just like anything made out of wood will swell and shrink with humidity with the grain, right? It doesn't shrink dimensionally this way. It only goes this way, right? So that's what's happening. The paper is laid down, has its own grain. Silver Age grain is this way, and that's why it shrinks this way. Golden Age grain actually is this way. The paper was loaded in the machine differently with the print, and so it shrinks this way, up and down. So anyway, good segue to our second topic for the day. We're going to talk a little bit about, I wanted to say collecting chaos. We've all done this. I've done it.
Oh, yeah.
It happens.
Trust
Be careful. Be careful out there.
I ripped a Hulk 181.
Wow.
But I still got an 8.0 on it.
All right. We're doing this. I ripped an Iron Man 55.
I've ripped more things than I can count.
All right. You starting us off? I think you said you want to start us off with some comments.
No, I will wrap us up. Why don't you start us off on this, and then I will do a segue between this and our next deck with the stuff we talked about. Shelby, go ahead.
All right. Well, I think hopefully I got everybody straightened out this past week that my two people in Canada got their books shipped out. I apologize. I was a little bit late. Work had just been tearing me up. And USPS did lose one book, but I sent out the replacement this past week. So hopefully that takes care of this. If you never got a copy of the Kickstarter, please go to Amazon. It's available in hardcover and softcover. I think there still might be a sale on the soft covers. I'm not sure. But definitely go out and get those. And such. So with that, though, go ahead to the next slide.
Yes, sir.
We'll just go ahead and say thank you. This book's been a labor of love. Thank you, everybody, support us along the way. We're grateful to each and every one of you and can't wait to bring you more in the coming year. And, of course, the response has been great. One of the things that has really touched me is when Paul and I were talking about this book early on, and I was telling him my vision for this book. I wanted it to be a kind of a journey, right? And I think a lot of people has really seen that with the way the graphics were done, the stories, the art, the way things are laid out, that this is kind of more than the sum of its parts in a way of it just really being just, entertainment along with a resource. So if you like it, please go leave that review on Amazon. We really appreciate it. I agree. The hardcover is nice. We still have a few. I'd sent out another one this week, but we do still have a few of the deluxe editions, which has this nice matte finish. It has thicker. It also comes signed.
And it's limited. The deluxe edition is limited to only 30.
Yeah.
So there's just a few of those left.
Well,
those are the only ones, by the way, that we have that you contact us directly for. The normal soft cover, normal hardcover, just you order directly from Amazon. We don't have any personally stocked.
So paper is a little bit thicker, and there's actually a little bit extra material in here. Nothing in terms of like conservation, but just some extra pictures and stuff. So yeah, I think we have 4 or 5 of these left. So please contact us at libertyhill@gmail.com.
All right. And leave those reviews on Amazon, please. We appreciate it.
All right. So our next book is entitled A Practical Manual for Beginning Conservators. I actually had a couple of people reach out to me. Is that because, are you on page 68?
We have a couple comments. Shelby, why don't you keep rolling? We'll sort of cover all these comments at once.
So I had actually a couple of people. It's funny. A couple of people reached out to me. Kevin, the comic doctor, reached out and said, "Man, I love the book. Really great. We're keeping it in the workshop for everybody to use as a reference." He's like, "But you should really make more of a step-by-step guide." And I was like, "Well, funny you say that, because that was the plan for the next book." Mm-hmm. And so the next book is more of a step-by-step guide, or a cookbook, as I kind of envisioned it. Of course, this manual will walk you through the essentials of methods. Excuse me. Oh, the King Kong. King Kong is freaking amazing work on it. And the book is written. We are done with it. It's around the beginning of April, of course. And so the book is written and undergoing edits.
Woohoo!
Woo! And for y'all tonight, we're going to give a preview. So here's the cover.
Oh, nice cover.
Thank you. A how-to guide for combat conservation, a practical manual for beginning conservators. And had X-Men 1 there. Go to the other one first, and we'll come back to this one.
Okay. So let's grab a couple of comments, and then I want to talk a little bit about the first book and the second book. So
please.
Couple questions about shrinkage. Just for those of you that don't know about shrinkage, any women that are watching that don't know about shrinkage.
I knew you were going to go there.
You can minimize it a little bit.
It happens when you get in the pool or get your comics wet.
So we talk about it in the book. It's talked about actually in the paper conservation literature. The best way to minimize it, I'm not sure that you can ever say you can 100% prevent it, because I have a pretty good track record, and I know Captain Larry does too, but we're hobbyists and we do this, like if you said, oh, clean 1,000 books, and I would never tell anybody, oh, I can do all of them without any shrinkage of the cover. Constrained drying essentially dries the cover as quickly as possible while constraining it dimensionally. That's sort of a fancy way of saying drying it under pressure, under weights, but constrained drying is actually the term used in the literature. It's used in a number of situations where you wet pages for a number of different reasons: deacidification, washing, even leaf casting, because when you cast new leaf onto existing paper, it almost never has the same dimensional stability as the existing paper. It's going to want to contract more or less with humidity. And so constrained drying is a major part of paper conservation. So we go through detailed methods of how to do that. I've done it in my videos, but also, again, we do it in the book. But it is quite effective. I won't say it's 100% effective. This is one of the reasons why it's difficult to practice constrained drying on a book that's still assembled. This is one of the reasons why I tend to prefer just disassembling books and wet cleaning covers if they need it, rather than HOP these days. Not that, again, HOP isn't a useful tool in your toolbox, and I think is super clever, and we're a fan of it. There's another question here about HOP, and it was wrinkling. Here we go. Is this it? Billy, welcome to the show. Billy Pilgrim, I have a hard time with ripples. Okay. Ripples mean that you have either too much water, too much heat, or not enough paper buffering, or you have an SRP layer. What's effectively happening is hot water is moving through the book, and it's expanding the paper and not being allowed to escape from the book.
Yeah, there's no path for escape.
So either use less water, use less heat because the heat will drive the water faster. So that's why in the HOP book, the heat they recommend is like 135 Fahrenheit as opposed to like 155 to 165 Fahrenheit would be kind of like a normal press temperature. Also, you can't use SRP like you used to use. You must use paper to buffer to allow a path for the water to escape. So that's what's going on with wrinkling. Try either less water, lower temperature, or get rid of SRP if you're using it, or buffer with more paper so that your humidity can escape. And I think
so let me say this is I was plagued with shrinking covers for a while, especially
Mm.
Silver Age. And I was so aggravated. I reached out to Paul, and that's when, he was talking about constrained drying. And, I didn't have a piece of marble left over from a kitchen renovation. So I'd gotten with Rick Morgan, and he had actually, if you look back at one of his videos, he actually calculated the amount of pressure you kind of need in order to do constrained drying and reduce shrinkage. And so I ended up just going and buying a 20-pound weight, and I put it between two pieces of Rick Morgan's drying acrylic, and with a blotting material, which are paper towels. And I have not had any problems with it whatsoever ever since then. So it does work.
One thing.
Now, can a copy press do the same thing? I've never done it with a copy press, but I would think so. And I know Jerry uses the copy press to prevent that from happening.
What I wanted to say about for leaf casting, you are going to, for the hydrogen bonding, you are going to need more pressure than the 20 pounds. That's when we come into the copy press. Yeah, that's essential to just crush the shit out of the paper so it bonds to the old paper.
Yep.
So.
Mr. Collector 123, welcome. He's joining us from one of y'all's channels, actually.
And I'll have to say, Mr. Collector's from my channel.
How much paper, Billy?
No SRP, 135 degrees.
Yeah. How much paper, though? Like, how many layers of paper above and below do you have? That may be the issue. He says, no problem with DC's only marbles.
Wasn't his original question about
ripples? Yeah, ripples
from hop, not ripples from.
Yeah. So I'm asking about the rest of the buffer.
Yeah, is there paper in there to absorb?
I'll say I get the same problem. That's one of the reasons why I do full disassembly, because I've never been able to get the paper to lay flat for me, and I always ended up getting wrinkles or worse, things that look like printer creases.
Yeah,
you can't take out. So that is one of the big reasons why I do full disassembly. It's just easier to me.
Billy, definitely, I think you need more paper than this. I would do like 2 magazine backer boards, 3 pieces of copy paper, or 2 pieces of cardstock and 2 backer boards, something like that.
There's a but with that, though.
Give it a try.
If you make it too thick, then you're looking at possibly blowing it out. So when you use that much paper, make sure it's a lightweight paper, like a 20-pound bond, nothing heavy.
Oh, I don't mean in the book. I mean actually on top.
Oh, I was talking about inside the book.
You can buffer a little bit extra in the book too, but not too much.
Yeah, because you'll blow that spine out.
Yeah. No. Sorry. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. All right. So before we go to the next segment, we're going to give you a preview of the next book. I want to talk about the first book a little bit and segue it. So I want to talk about it in sort of, again, 10,000 foot view. So what was the book about? What does it do? What doesn't it do? Why is there another book coming? And more importantly, it's already creating, because people are starting to digest the book, and it's already, I think, creating a little bit of misunderstanding in our community. So I just want to nip it in the bud right now. So what Shelby and I did was we digested the paper conservation literature. We chewed it up. We applied it to comic books, and then we spit it out for you so that you don't have to read it all. What does that mean? What that means is, a lot of the paper conservation literature was not directly applicable to comic books. A lot of it was on the wrong kinds of paper and other things. And so we found the parts that were most applicable, and we did the best we could. Now, the literature also is finite. So if somebody says to me, can I use 10% hydrogen peroxide? Well, nobody put that in the literature. Nobody did a controlled scientific study, right? The highest levels I think we saw were like 3%, maybe even 1.5%. So
1.5.
So what we can say is we looked at the literature. 1.5% hydrogen peroxide aqueous bath is safe for limited periods of time, doesn't destroy paper. So I want to talk about something that is important here. When we say 1.5% is safe for paper for this amount of time, full submersion aqueous bath, that's because there's good science to support that statement. We are not saying 3% destroys paper. We're saying 1.5% is demonstrated safe. So please don't use the book and go at somebody and say, well, you can't use over 1.5%. It's not safe. The data don't say that 3% isn't safe. Conversely, if you're using 3%, you don't have proof that that's safe unless you have your own data to present to me, because the data are not in the literature proving that that's safe. So that's how science works. That's how data works. I feel like that's getting lost a little bit in some of the conversation around the book in some of the corners of the internet. And so I just wanted to bring it up. So what does the book do? The book shows you everything that we could find in the literature and summarizes it in a way. Shelby made sure it was fun and accessible for everybody. I made sure it was scientifically 100% airtight. Not that Shelby doesn't also do that. And what it tells you is what data are available, what we definitely know for sure from the literature. There's a lot that we don't know. There's a lot of holes. And because we wanted it to be comprehensive and include everything that we knew that was relevant from the literature, it's like 265 pages. That didn't leave a lot of room for us to do summaries of, okay, here's just best practice for people that want the sort of cliff notes, right? So we were already basically had the whole thing written and we were busy editing it. And again, thank you to everybody who contributed, whether you contributed pictures, stories, projects, whether you contributed by editing, giving us feedback, we appreciate it. And we realized we don't have room to have a section in every chapter saying, here's what you really need to know. For 90% of stuff, just do this. We wanted it to be for every corner case, and we wanted it to be comprehensive so that the people who want to learn all of the first principles can get all of them from this book here, and then they can interpret them themselves. But for those of you who don't want to do that, who want somebody else to just give you a recipe book with maybe a little bit of background and some examples, there's less of that in this book. So that's why we wanted to do another book. Hopefully that's clear to everybody. And if you have any questions about it, throw them in.
Well, it's just more in depth, I think, the new book.
Well, yes and no, Larry.
Yes
I
and
mean,
no, yeah.
well, you're more detailed. It's more detailed. But
That's
there's
what I mean.
Less breadth, a lot less breadth.
Okay.
Yeah, but more detailed on very specific. The techniques that you're going to use 9 times out of 10 are described in a cookbook-like way, step by step, with more detail. But the techniques you might need 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20 times, we don't really cover here because, again, we wouldn't have room for them, right? Our first book was already, it was bigger than Shelby wanted it to be, and he knows better than I do in these.
How big is this book?
Right now, it's 160 pages, I think.
Okay, that's a good size. It's going to be the same format as the other one.
Similar. So one thing, so Jason, I'm just picking on you. And that means that you are volunteering to be an editor for the next book. So you can find those typos. But yeah, this is just breaking down the simple techniques. And I say simple, but this is the basic techniques, I should probably say, of what you need for conservation. So it's dry cleaning, humidification, pressing, wet cleaning, stain removal, tear seals, reinforcement, reassembly, reformation. So it does not include things like removing glue, removing tape, so restoration removal. We are going to do a more thorough book on that too. It also doesn't include leaf casting. We're doing another book on that one too. That's going to be a lot more thorough. So these are just the basics in a more accessible way to approach this. One thing too is we had several people in the conservation community reach out to us and say, you really should have talked more about the conservator mindset. Kenny Sanderson was huge about this whole mindset that you have and that you bring to the hobby of conservation. So we put that chapter in there. Ethics we wanted to keep because that comes straight from the literature. And we also have a very large glossary of terms in this one. Good, Paul. We'll just show.
Yeah. What? You know what? Just real quick, let's address a couple comments.
Yeah,
here.
I was going to say we got a lot of questions here.
Larry, here's a request for you to put together some content soon.
Yeah. Well, actually, Paul, if you have, if you want to take that picture, I texted you earlier today. You can show my homemade copy press.
I wonder if I can do that.
I don't know. It should be right there in the text messages.
Why didn't I get a picture of it?
You weren't in the text chain. It was something I sent to Paul.
Let's see.
Now, I'm not sure how equal it is. I feel like it's not going to do as much pressure as an antique press or bookbinding press is what sometimes they're called. You can buy modern equivalents, which has a big handle, and that's what Peter and I have.
Well, what I did is, and Paul's trying to pull the picture up, is I was having trouble sourcing a copy press. I found a couple of them, $250, $300, $400, but all of them were like several hundred miles away. And then you start adding cost of gas and everything. It just was cost prohibitive. So I like to invent things. So I modified a 12-ton press. And it was one I picked up off of Amazon.
You're not freaking pressing metal. You're pressing a comic book.
You gotta smash the crap out of it there, boss.
God. Man.
But there's a but in there, Shelby.
The
sandwich that I'm using is 2 half-inch pieces of high-density smooth plastic. After I've done the leaf cast, I put it inside blotting paper and then continue to crush it down. And basically that removes all the water. And we were talking about controlling the shrinkage of the wet piece. And this does it. It'll keep it from shrinking. I've got a Planet Comics cover in there right now that I just did a full submersion leaf cast. And this time I did actually document some stuff. So I'll share that in a video. But so far on this this homemade press that I'm using with the 12th, there it is. So that was from Amazon. It was about $180. And they brought it and dropped it off on my front porch. And then the pieces of high density plastic I got from US Plastic for about $20 a piece. And inside that sandwich is the blotting paper that's exact same size. And yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. So you got plenty of throat here. So probably you want to move up to something stiffer than the plastic ultimately, like some thick cutting boards or something, some wood.
Well, I have wood to go underneath, but the plastic so far has worked pretty well. So I can make a thicker sandwich. This is actually experiment number 1. That this photo is from this morning in my garage.
Yep.
So
Jason, I also think $250, if it's a nice one, is probably pretty cheap.
I think I would say $250 is a good deal as long as it doesn't have any cracks in it.
Yeah,
Yep.
or rusted to all hell and back and can't be twisted anymore. But yeah, they usually, the good ones or the ones in working order usually go for around 350, 400. What I found.
That's a great question for you, Dr. Paul. You're the expert.
Yeah. So most glues can't be dissolved with solvents that won't take inks off your cover. Most glues are scraped or cut away, but we do have a chapter in the book about glues and which ones can be dissolved. I have a series of videos around America's Best Comics number 12, in which I
Great
showed
series.
a
Great
recipe
series.
for dissolving PVC glue and
PVA.
PVA. Thank you. I knew it was wrong when I said it. And that's basically Elmer's glue or white glue, school glue. And you get a little bit of ink loss depending on where it is, and you may be able to do it. You may be able to dissolve it. So give that a try. Give it a look anyway, and then make a decision about.
It does work. I've used it myself. That recipe is perfect.
Yeah. Steve G. Let's see.
I know, Gerald, and I saw your messages just the other day. I'm gonna get everything straight. I promise. I know I keep saying that, but I promise you.
Steve G says, I spent weeks and weeks reading studies, newspaper preservation, blah, blah, blah. But this book cuts to the chase. Excellent, providing the details. Thank you.
And there's not a lot of even that. Like newspaper preservation is more difficult than comic book preservation, I think.
Collecting Cast says, a couple of 2x12s and some wood clamps.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't think for leaf casting. For leaf casting, you really need literally
a lot of pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Mm.
half-inch glass is pretty heavy. And I know that Jerry found his on the side of the road where someone threw it out from their broken bookcase. But half-inch glass of about a couple of feet is pretty heavy.
Yeah, that's what I use. I use a half-inch. It's 18 by 18 by 1/2 glass, and I got it off Amazon. I got 2 of them. That's my cold press.
Shelby is a machine. This guy has over 30 peer-reviewed publications before he even started working in this
I'm
field.
used to writing, and
he's a good writer too. He's not just pumping out garbage.
Yeah.
Gerald,
Wouldn't believe it the way I talk, but
I like
all right.
what Jason's drying wraps through crushing pressure would be wicked.
So we've been on over an hour, Shelby. Let's just give them a quick preview.
Do a quick
We'll
preview.
kind of rapid fire.
Definitely ask some help from the community. So Mindset of the Conservator, all the chapters are kind of set up the same way, where at the beginning of each chapter you actually have the goals set out for you. That was something that I'd kind of integrated in the text, and then I didn't do it for everything, and I felt like that was something that was missing from the current book that I really wanted to outline in this new book. So the beginning of every chapter has the goals. There are some missing spots for pictures, and like I said, I'll be doing a request here in a little bit. You go ahead, a couple of things forward. So one thing too is, if you notice on these pictures, QR code. A lot of people requested, why don't you, when you're showing some of these things and you have videos, because I did pull a lot of images from our own videos, is put a QR code. So where available, there's a QR code with each picture where you can go now to the video instantly and actually see that book in whatever process that we're talking about in this reference. So,
right. And we'll create some new content for the book as well that'll be coded in this way.
Yeah, that's
great. Some of the real basics, things that we get asked a lot.
Exactly. You can just kind of click ahead a little bit, and again, just QR code. You can just click ahead. Go ahead and go ahead. All right. So now dry cleaning, again, you have those goals at the beginning of each chapter. And all this is brand new stuff, right? It's not I recycled stuff from the current book and stuck in here. This is all brand new stuff, me taking maybe a different viewpoint of the topic as I was writing it. You know, and it's a lot of things you should look out for. I didn't get into that because the first book was more of a reference manual way I looked at it. In this book, I'm really telling you the things to look out for when you're doing something. So, for example, with dry cleaning, these are the things you want to look out for when you go into this. And there's Paul's beautiful Wonder Woman that he did.
Back from CGC, by the way.
It is. And you just keep, and I got into more of the detail of all the different cleaning methods, but go to the next one. So, not this one, but this is a good one though. This was talking about kind of a cookbook. So every procedure is now broken down with a set of tools on the left and the broken out procedures on the right. So they're easy to follow. Anything specific you want to know, like for this one, cleaning with a cotton round, cleaning with a kneaded eraser, you have those, what tools you need and what the procedures are. You can go to the next one, and there's an example of using a white eraser, showing some great before and afters. Well, you know, I did grow up in some of those eras of the Lifetime magazines. I remember those. You can go ahead. I mean, it's not much I'm saying. And hopefully you like some of the new art. So I am trying to do these full page pieces of art where possible.
I think that looks great.
Yeah.
Some inset stuff, again, the QR codes. So it is a fresh, it is fresh visually is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And a lot of these even are placeholders. So some of this art that you see that was in the first book, Shelby put together a lot of the text and put placeholders. And so some of this will be with new as well.
Yeah, I just tested out your QR code. Worked great.
Oh, great. Yeah, so just going through and yeah, go ahead to the next one. And then at the end of each chapter, we put in common mistakes to avoid. That was something that so many people asked for that we didn't include in the current book. What are some of the common mistakes? What are some things I should look out for? You know, and trust me, we've talked about that tonight, right? Is we've all made plenty of mistakes because we've been doing this now for a couple of years. And so we want to let you know what some of those areas you should look out for to keep you from making those same mistakes.
Forewarned is forearmed.
Yeah. The humidification is actually built out a little bit more than it is in the current book. We had a lot of discussion with like Kenny and Susan. They kind of take a different technique when it comes to humidification in some areas and pressing. And so those parts are included in here in a lot more detail than we had in the first book, because we actually didn't start talking to them in an active manner till we was almost finished with the book. So we were able to take some of that and add it to this book. Go ahead, Paul. And you just kind of click ahead and stuff a little bit. So again, still some placeholders around. But, you know, here is, we go into a lot more detail in the different types of humidification. I think in the first book, we really just talked mainly about humidity chamber. But there's a lot of different ways in which you can humidify, right? You can use cotton rounds. You can just lay it on top, put a towel over it. Blotter paper. This is an interesting one. Susan Ciccone actually takes real blotter paper and mists with a spray bottle, lets it fall on top of the blotter paper, and then lays that on top of the book and puts a lightweight on top of it.
Interesting.
And uses that to humidify the book.
So
That's
she's
actually a very traditional. That's actually a very traditional. I've seen some conservation videos where they actually do that process with very weak paper, and she swears buys it.
Does she use a humidity chamber or just
No,
open?
never,
Just that.
never.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead, Paul. So the wet stack we include handheld steamer. I don't think we talked about that in the first book. If we did, very lightly.
We do, but yeah, brief.
I use the handheld steamer quite often with my books. Go ahead, Paul. And then, of course, the humidity chamber.
That's what I use. I use a humidity chamber.
The classic. But there are different ways in which we discuss using the humidity chamber. We really go into more details about using a moistened towel, moistened sponge. Those cups you see that are holding up my platform, Rick Morgan actually turns them upside down and pours a little bit of water in each cup to get an even distribution of humidification across.
Yeah. I have a similar setup. I have open bottom tubes that I use.
Yeah, I use the same setup as Paul. I have 4-inch PVC or ABS plastic as a platform.
What I use,
Yeah.
There's also micro. Help me with the word. Is it like micro, not micro mister, but like a micro humidifier or something that you guys.
They're the sonicating ones that aren't actually creating steam. They're actually creating micro bubbles that
so
can actually carry. Yeah, so different from a steamer in that steamer literally heats the water so it enters vapor phase. Sonic actually vibrates the water so that tiny micro bubbles lift off the surface. So it's more like fog versus steam.
Yes.
One of the nice things about that is that can carry any ions that are in the water with it. So for example, if you boil water, which would be akin to steaming it, and it's salt water, the water that's coming off is pure water vapor. It has no salt in it. Salt can't enter that phase in that way. If you sonically make fog, though, the salt goes with the little bubble, the little micro bubble of water. And so, for example, if you wanted to deacidify a book, you would want to use one of those sonic fog generators as opposed to it might be ultrasonic. But
ultrasonic, thank you. That's
at any rate,
what it is. Yes, thank you.
One of the ones that creates it by vibration rather than through a heating type element.
And if you only have salt water to drink, if you heat it and capture the steam in a distillery, then you'll have fresh water.
Well, then you'll have distilled water.
Water too. All right. And then common mistakes and such. And I think the next thing we have is just showing the glossary a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So the glossary.
To jump over to that, the glossary.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The glossary, here's a question for you. Glossary going to cover both books?
There shouldn't be anything in this one that wasn't, or that there shouldn't, I don't want to say that. We're using the same terminology from the first book, but expanding it. So, yes, it should be included. So, same as what we did before, we're always looking for images. Mistakes is a big one. We have a lot of requests about just showing some of the mistakes, some of the things that we should avoid. That's why at the end of each chapter, I put that, common risks or things to avoid or being careful of. But we could always use some more images. If you have any step-by-step things, with stain removal or anything, not necessarily leaf casting. If you send us leaf casting stuff, that's going to be We'll save it for another book.
Right. Or restoration removal.
Or restoration removal. But yeah, if you have some good images of you laying some Japanese paper and all that, or the next time you rip a cover.
Don't do it on purpose, please.
Yeah. And then defects, certain defects. There's one thing that, and I'll make this a quick conversation because we're about an hour and 15 minutes, is I'm friends with Captain Mike, and Captain Mike is working on a second edition of the stain removal. And, one of the things with his books is he doesn't do disassembly, period. Where we do disassembly. And I'm not saying that we promote disassembly. We give you in the book methods to do cleaning, whether you disassemble or not disassemble.
Right.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
However, there are certain stains that are going to do better with disassembly. And I'll give you an example. If you have a dirty t-shirt and it has mud and dirt and all that stuff on it, and you lay it out and you put a wet rag on top of it, how well do you think it's going to clean it? Not very well. But that's essentially what you're doing with hop, is you're taking a dirty cover and you're laying a wet piece of paper on top of it and pressing it and thinking that, somehow by magic that the dirt is going to get lifted off. Now, what happens is you have hydrogen peroxide usually, and hydrogen peroxide is a bleach, not a dirt removal. So the best way to clean your shirt is you put it in the washing machine. The dirt and soiling becomes solubilized, and it gets lifted from the shirt, just like you do with a full immersion bath. So there are, now am I saying that you shouldn't do hop? Of course I'm not saying that. There are certain stains or certain things like whitening that it's great for. So is blue light.
What Shelby is saying is put your Hulk 181 in the washing machine.
Did you see Rick Morgan stick the giant size X-Men #1 in the bathtub? Oh my God, I freaked out. All right, apparently came out good. Apparently came out fine. But all I'm saying is that we want to bring some, and I don't want to say common sense, but some good, we want to bring things to the attention more. And so, for example, if you're dealing with a, very brown tanned book, guess what's going to be your best thing is calcium hydroxide. And now, if you don't have any stainings, you just want to reduce the tanning, sure. You see Salesboy doing it. He just wipes a cotton thing around it and can remove some of the tanning, But if you want, a deeper effect that goes all the way through the fibers and you're sure that leaves a really healthy alkaline reserve, then full immersion is going to be your better way.
Or minimally using a calcium hydroxide as part of your hop or as part of your mist, bled O, bled M, whatever you're doing.
Yeah. The Ghost Rider that Larry did, that was a stain that went all the way through the book. Placing.
Yeah. And it was right on the spine too. In a way that
paper on each side of that is not going to. Yeah. It will bleach the stain. It's not going to remove it. But he took it completely off the, took the cover off and full immersion, aqueous bath, and was able to get the results that, you can get from that process.
That's a good example of constrained drying too, giving you a universal label.
Yep.
Yeah.
That one got a universal label on that one.
Yeah.
And we did beat the CGC thing to death, so there's no CGC stuff in this one. So, we'll probably be working with Matt. Oh, thinking about that, I do need to get some orders in to. So if anybody's wanting that,
Matt's book.
Great, yeah, Matt's book. I will be doing an order soon. I know I put a survey up on the Facebook, and I'll be ordering a few extras and stuff. So, if
All
you
right.
need that. Anyway, yes, please reach out to Liberty Hill Press at gmail.com and send me your images. Make sure they're nice, high resolution, and etc.
Are you doing show offs, Larry, before we say goodbye?
Well, we were talking. Well, this kind of matches the subject. I did take a cover off of a
First
X-Men.
Eunice the Untouchable.
Well,
we were
you
just
did
talking
say
about all the
first
appearances.
Eunice. So what I wanted to point out though is up here.
Yeah.
The colorist decided to do some coloring in here. I did clean it. I did have some color loss, and we were talking about that earlier. This is something I did literally right before the show. There's the stamp on the
Bonnets.
front.
It's a bonnet. It's a bonnet book.
Yeah.
But the interior was tan, and now it's clean. Now
Mhm.
I will preface: I paid $25 for the book, so it's not anything major, but it's something. I'll put it back together. Once I deacidify the rest of it, it'll be okay. It'll be a conserved book again. So.
last.
And it has a bonnet stamp. The bonnet stamps are talked about in our current book.
What is a bonnet stamp? Let's explain that, Shelby.
Bonnet stamp, that is the oldest used bookstore in the entire United States.
No kidding.
Began back in the 1940s, I believe. Or
Oldest
30s, maybe. But the person that owned the store first, Bonnet, he actually wrote some comics and things back in the day in the golden age, and it's been a family-owned business in Ohio, and is still open today. And when you find older comic books like that with the bonnet stamp,
Well, that's
it's
cool.
remarkable.
He was buying comics by the pound and then reselling them and stamping them all like that.
Yeah, I bought 4 books for $100, and this is just, this is the one I was after. And it came with some other, I got like a pristine, 12-cent Daredevil. It's probably a 9.2 or a 9.4 even.
Oh, wow. Fun.
All of this stuff. Yeah, I did it. It was great. It was something that was on eBay, and nobody else really bid on it, so I got it.
Nice. We can, it's not really conservation related necessarily, unless you consider it all raw material, but we could start doing pickups. I think that would be fun on the show. Maybe just do a quick round of pickups as a.
I think that'd be a good idea.
I tell you what, viewers, if you think that would be a
viewers.
good segment for us, drop us a comment either here in the live chat or comment on the video. Let us know that you think that would be fun and you'd like to see pickups from us, and we'll consider it for future episodes.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think we should wrap up. Let's thank again sponsors of this show. They include AG, Salesboy Comics, and Collecting Chaos. Next show is going to be sponsored by Archivist Adrift, Don Carter, and Salesboy Comics again, who says, "Happy birthday, Shelby." Happy birthday from all of us, Shelby. Thank you so much.
Happy birthday, Shelby.
I really appreciate all of you. Appreciate you co-hosts, everybody here in the chat, all of you watching later, everybody in the Facebook group. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. And I'll say until next time, take care of one another. Shelby.
See you later, everybody. Shelby, see you.
Peace, love, and comics. Bye.
See you, everybody.
Bye now.